Longo, big MMA guy, been around a long time. He's got a couple doctorate degrees. I mean, we talk sports physiology, we talk supplements, we talk, all kinds of different things, heart rate variability. I mean, he's just a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of information, which is why I had to break this episode up into 2 parts. If you haven't seen part 1, check out part 1 first, episode 59 of Xtreme Lyfe, part 1. It's labeled that way. Check it out and then come back and listen to this episode, or check out this episode on YouTube or however you're going to do it. But, definitely a fun conversation. I enjoy talking to Tony, and this is part 2 without further ado.
On behalf of your host, Steve D, this is Bruce Buffer saying thank you for tuning in to Xtreme Lyfe. And now, this is the moment Xtreme Lyfe fans around the world have been waiting for. It's time!
When I first got into CrossFit years ago, I think I did there was something that came out. It was like, how many years have you been in CrossFit? It was a way to calculate or whatever. And I have like 11 years in CrossFit, which is almost to where the beginning is, right? Almost to where it started.
Yeah.
Almost to where CrossFit started, which is interesting. And, I go back and forth and vary around a little bit. But one of the first things someone told me was, because I forget what the first workout was, but it was something with a barbell. And I really didn't, do a whole lot of lifting prior to that. So it was something with a barbell and like a 400-meter sprint or something like that. And someone said to me, this one term that never kind of left me is rest while you run. And I'm like, it was a really strange concept, right? It's kind of like.
I like that.
Well, it was rest while you run, because the other movement is way more taxing to you, right? So you got to find, and especially in sports like CrossFit, things like that. And I'm assuming like sometimes, I guess somewhere in fighting, maybe there's a little bit of that too, is you got to find a spot where your comfort zone is, where you can kind of regroup even while you're moving a little bit.
Totally.
And get yourself back together. And that's kind of like if you got 20 clean and jerks at, let's just say 135, and then you got a 400-meter sprint, and you're not efficient with those clean and jerks yet, you got to rest where you can, right? Because you don't want to stop moving. So that's kind of, it's about the efficiency there, right? So
that's a really cool point. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is like, okay, let's say that you weren't great at the cleans, but you're very good at the run. I mean, so mentally, you're getting rest because, okay, here's my strong point. Let me focus. Good. And while you're doing that, all right, we're gonna improve that clean. Everything's gonna be good. So yeah, you rest from the stress of it, and maybe some positive talk. I know it's hard when you're running hard in your own brain, but yeah, that's a pretty cool concept. Really is.
It is, and I've used that throughout. Like, there's certain movements I'm very good at, and there's certain ones I'm not that great at. So whenever I see a workout that comes up, and I'm like, okay, this one I'm just gonna, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get some air here, because over here I'm not going to have any. And, you figure that out. So what your choice is basically this. If I'm really good, let's say I'm really good at running, but not so good at another movement that's in the workout, and I know that movement's going to tax me out, I have a choice. I could either really gun the run and, struggle through this other piece, or I could dial back the run a little bit
and advance the other quality.
And stay consistent in the other quality.
Right.
So these are sometimes the choices we have. And I'm sure that's, the same in just about any sport, where you get to certain things you're going to be really good at and certain things, you're not so good at. Right. So.
And you see that in MMA, if a guy's a little tired on his feet, and he's a great wrestler, what's he going to do? He's going to try to get to the ground, hold the base, and he recovers there. Yeah. And I've even seen that. It is anecdotal. I would love to run studies on this, but I've even seen that where, people that are really home on the ground in sparring will go at a torrid pace in their heart rate, because I'll wire them up. It's hard to hold that monitor, but I have shirts that can, at least increase the chance of that. But I'll wire them up, and they'll be 130 beats a minute on the ground at a torrid pace, right? Maybe higher if there's a lot of locking up and Valsalva and constant tension. But then they'll stand up and nothing's going on, but they're not a great stand-up fighter and their heart rate's 160.
Yeah.
Because they have to rest when they're on the ground.
Yep.
Just like you have to rest while you're running in your analogy, as opposed to the cleans. So, yeah, I think every athlete utilizes that moment of strength in order to regroup or catch a rest. Like in football, if the team's a good running team, they're all right, well, we tried a couple of passes. They're stuffing us. Let's get back to our running game for a little bit, right?
Yep.
So,
yep. No, it kind of goes with that whole comfort zone and figuring out how to make it work for you. And then, like I said, I think that's just part of training. It's knowing your body, right? I think, that's another thing people I think don't do enough is listen to their body. The other day I went down to my garage where I work out a lot, and I was like, on my schedule was heavy work. And I was like, I walked in and I'm like, man, I had a tough day all day. And I was just like, you know what? I don't feel it. So what did I do? I dialed it all back. I dropped the weight down. I dropped everything down. I said, I'm still going to move. I'm just not going to move the way I intended to move today.
Exactly.
And you got to,
and you're still improving.
Oh yeah.
Right?
You're still doing something.
Right. And what you've done is you've connected a bridge. So yeah, this workout, let's say it was great. Here's another one that's going to be great. But this one in between wasn't its best. So what? You built a bridge to the future workouts, as opposed to there being, you have to stop and regroup. And I think that kind of auto-regulation is really important. And I agree with you that I don't think we utilize it enough. But I also do think it takes a good deal of training experience with oneself to understand when that has to happen, right?
Oh yeah, because when do people get hurt? When they're overtrained.
Yeah.
Right. Either two times when athletes get hurt at very low level, when they're just starting out, they don't really have the techniques down yet of whatever sport they're doing, or at a high level when they just keep training to a very high degree, high intensity all the time, heavyweight. I've seen Olympic lifters over time. I mean, why do people get hurt? I mean, I know people who've broken their back not because that one lift that they did, it's the hundreds of lifts before at too much weight.
Good point. Absolutely.
That they did.
Right. It's like saying, I got 40,000 miles on my brakes in my car and you need new brakes. And somebody says, well, what did you do when you stopped? What time did you stop on them that you need new brakes?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. No. 40,000 miles that may have contributed, right, to that one time where I did jam and they're worn out. So that's a really good point, because then you find yourself getting hurt on the lower intensity because of the lack of recovery. And that's it. I mean, the body is really very well prepared. And I say this to my students at the university. When you think of how good we are adapting to training stimulus, it almost makes me think training isn't good for us. It's obligatory. In better words, look how it's like, of course it is good for us. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I say to my students, is exercise good or is it required? Is oxygen good for me? I don't know. I know one thing, I can't live without it. Okay.
Yeah. No,
you're not living optimally without physical activity. When you look at the cardiorespiratory capacity to adapt to aerobic stimulus, the neuromotor, I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal when you look at how the body adapts, how each fiber type adapts, how the changes at the nervous system, where the myoneural junction, where it communicates with the muscle. It's so incredible that if you give the body the opportunity to adapt effectively, it is really amazing how we can advance ourselves as an athlete or a species. Incredible. But the recovery is there, and it is a mental recovery and a physical that needs to be there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You hear a lot about mental toughness and physical toughness, and I mean, they're both important, I think, but I think you also have to kind of, mental toughness doesn't mean mentally stupid. you gotta, you can be mentally tough and do things and push yourself. That's absolutely true. But you also got to say, okay, I gotta, everybody wants to be the tough guy in the gym or the, whatever. And hey, you know what? I'll throw 135 pounds around all day long. I mean, that's a fine weight for me. I don't need to go to 225, 250 300. I don't need to do that every day in a gym or anywhere. And if you are, that's not a good way to train. You're going to hurt yourself eventually. But
yeah, if you want to train forever, it ain't a good way. Exactly.
No, your body takes damage. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, training the right way preserves your physical fitness.
That's
training the wrong way will destroy your physical fitness.
That's real. Yep. Right. You're right. It's like you can improve this or you can hurt it. Right. Good point.
Yeah. I mean, you could be one of those guys that said, yeah, I used to be able to snatch 270, but I can't walk anymore. It's like, I mean, what good is that? So one thing I wanted to talk to you about, and we got a few more minutes, I think, but do you have a couple more minutes?
I certainly do.
Awesome, my friend. I love our conversation. So when I get you on here, man, I want to get all the good stuff. Supplementation. One of the things I really, and I've been all over the place. I've been with creatine, beta alanine's my new, I've been doing that a lot lately. What are your thoughts on supplementation and what are some of the things, that seem to work and what are some of the things that don't seem to do anything? Because there's a lot of stuff out there and everybody says everybody's got the miracle.
Yep, absolutely. And everybody just bear with me. What I am doing is just making sure that I have enough power in this here device while we chat. So I love the supplement question, and there we go. We are ready. Thank you.
I've actually done that in a podcast. Yep. I remember I was interviewing TJ DeSantis. You know who TJ is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he's been on a few times. And I think the first interview I had with him, I didn't have my power cord, and I was like, I couldn't find it, and the computer was going dead. Oh man, I was having a heart attack there. And
well, TJ was exactly what we're avoiding now. So.
TJ was so great. He was like, "Steve, I get it. I'll call you right back. Find your power cord."
And you got the good editing skills, so it can.
Oh yeah, so I edited it. Nobody even noticed that it was a half and half kind of interview, but
it's perfect. And regarding our supplement question, see, I really see high value in them, and the old saying is. Right. It goes like this. A poor diet supplemented is still a poor diet. Mm-hmm. And I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. But when you're training at intensities that are probably, super physiological, like a CrossFit or fighting or your Division I wrestler or even American football at the elite levels, supplementation has its role. And I think we have some established ones, Steve, that we can feel really good about. And there are others. The question isn't so much, they're awful, they're terrible. It's just, are they worth the money? Mm-hmm. And so like the International Society of Sports Nutrition is a great place to go for people. They have their ISSN, sportnutritionsociety.org, and they do have free access to their position papers. And the position papers are wonderful because they break supplements into 3 categories: effective, possibly effective, and
or total garbage.
Right. It's just okay. So I think here's for our type of athletes, effective. Obviously, protein is essential. And the reason why it is so essential is we don't have a storage pool for protein. Mm-hmm. And we have to be on top of it every day. So I can put maybe an average person 100 grams of glycogen in my liver, maybe 300-400 average person glycogen in skeletal muscle. So you got carbohydrate storage. Wonderful. Unfortunately, the body doesn't seem to have a limitation on how much fat we can store, right? But no one ever says to you, I need to get this protein off my waist by the summer, right?
I would totally love it if someone said that to me.
Somebody's going to. It's gonna. I promise you, somebody's going to tell us that it isn't adipose, it's protein on the way. That's coming. But so the point to that is we need to take that. So if you're a multi-practice athlete in a day, something like a whey protein or a casein, or you can use a vegetable, all right? That's fine. But protein powders are unequivocally a wonderful thing for an athlete because they allow for a liquid intake. Some of them are hydrolyzed. You don't have to break them down as much. And they're beautiful for, what do? Supplements fill in gaps. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what, so whey protein is number one, or casein or protein powder. Number two, for 35, 40 years, people have been trying to prove creatine is being harmful, and it's just not working. And I don't even take creatine anymore for the muscle improvement. I take it for all the neuroprotective effects, for the potential anti-inflammatory effects. So the research in creatine has gone into other avenues and other therapeutic applications. We already know it helps sport performance. Mm-hmm. So that is that's number two. Number three is what you mentioned. I think the data on beta-alanine remains strong. Mm-hmm. And if you're an athlete, definitely a CrossFit athlete, where replicable power is key, beta-alanine is a good supplement. A really good supplement. I
just heard Matt Frazier refer to it. Matt Frazier was the 5-time champ of the CrossFit Games. He refers to beta-alanine as his third lung.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm a good one, Matt.
He calls it his third lung. He's like, it's almost like I got an extra lung when I take that for a workout.
Somebody who's won it 5 times is worthy of listening.
Oh, yeah. You listen to that guy. He's won 5 times. I mean,
I love that. Third lung, beta-alanine. Very cool. I will quote and credit you on that, Matt Fraser, and you, Steve, every time. That is a good one. And it's a great supplement. And then on top of that, I'm right now, obviously, vitamin D for the immunoprotective effects. The data is very good with regarding the things we've seen with COVID. And I am a fish oil guy. I think the essential fatty acids can be really helpful. So if you were to ask me my top 5, that would probably be it. Now, things that are betaine, great. Vasodilator, I think it's great. If you're training really hard, glutamine could be helpful. But what I have found to close out this part is, it's hard to get people to take 10 supplements a day.
Yeah.
So choose your top 5 for their goal and apply that with the good food. And my best guess is, like anything else, the more nutrients you put in your body through good food, there's probably greater efficacy with the supplements.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, and I've been up and down and off and on. And like anything, though, I like to go on supplements for a while, then I'll come off of them for a little while, and I'll go on them for a little while. Yeah. I kind of, I'm not always doing them, but the supplements, the one methodology I want to ask you about, because this is how I did this with the whey protein and the casein protein, right? I would do, I think I did 50 grams, which is probably a low dose of whey protein during the day before a workout. Now, I don't know if I should have did it before, because what I like to do is I'll do carb loading after a workout.
Okay. I think that was sensible. Yeah. No, way before and carb after. There's rationale. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a backloading. There's actually paperwork out there on that. You've probably seen it, of backloading carbs.
Yep.
On the back end rather than prior, because years prior to that, they were like, before you're going to do this heavy workout, go out and eat a big plate of pasta, or something like that. It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right. And that glycogen storage that you're looking for, the intramuscular, takes a little longer than 2 hours, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna do that, but putting it back in made a little more sense, at least for me, what I was doing at that point. And then what I would do is prior to bed, I would do another 50 grams of casein protein.
Yeah,
because it's a slower digesting. So that does. I mean, does that sound? And of course, I would do creatine at that point. Yeah. And I just introduced beta-alanine recently into my regimen, which I should have introduced a long time ago, but I just kind of got into that a little bit. But
yeah, no, there's good thought there. So a couple of things will go from the way you just approach it. The protein prior seems to be as important, in terms of talking about a window. So like the 50 grams of protein prior to training, and that's a good number, by the way. I think it's a nice size. You don't need to go more. Prior to training, and maybe with some small carb serving is wonderful, and putting a little post training, a little protein with the carbs post is excellent, because we're pretty sure we see that when you mix the protein and the carbs post, and again, you don't need a lot, maybe 20 grams, 25 grams of protein with your carbohydrates post training. Yeah. It seems to augment the glycogen synthesis. So they really do seem to complement each other.
Okay, good.
Protein better muscle protein synthesis post-workout when you throw in a little carb. Seems that way. But we definitely think we see better glycogen resynthesis with a little bit of protein post-training. So you're in good shape there. You're smart with the whey because it's very fast in the kinetics, so it would go in. And then regarding your nighttime casein, it's an interesting strategy that makes a lot of sense, and the evidence in the research is pretty good. So, for example, a good friend, Dr. Mike Ornsby, exercise physiologist, Florida State Seminole, he's a Seminole, okay? He does a lot of cool stuff with nighttime protein feeding. And what they see, to your point, is you go to bed on casein, and it's almost the equivalent, or it seems to be the equivalent of going to bed as if you fasted 5 hours before. In better words, there's no impact on fat burning when going to bed, particularly on a slow kinetic casein protein. So if you wanted to eat something that could be cottage cheese, it could be a yogurt, instead of the actual powder.
Yeah.
So it's cool. The fat burning is actually the same. So that is a good strategy. And it seems that muscle protein synthesis is augmented further by doing that while sleeping, and that recovery may really benefit. So there's wonderful news out there that maybe you can eat before bed and suffer no, negative effects.
Yeah.
Protein.
Well, my wife says I snore if I eat before bed, so I can't. I wake up, she's in the other room. I'm like, damn, I must have done it again.
On casein, is it just casein? Maybe if you go to bed on whey, you won't snore.
I don't know. No, she sasays if I eat before bed, the casein's fine. Yeah, the casein's fine. I take the casein powder and I'm good to go. But if I eat something like real food before bed, she says it makes me snore. So she's like, so I try not to do that now. But the casein, is definitely something I'm probably going to get back on soon. And do that again for a little while, see how that works for me.
Just a note, sorry to interrupt, but with your training intensity, I think there's great value in you doing that. I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I always appreciate your advice. And, I hope to get out there soon. I mean, you're currently, I know you're working with a lot of guys out there. You're working with, Pumi Nakuda, who congratulations to Pumi. I just want to say.
How good did that look, right?
Oh, my God. I was there, man. I was like, what a dominant performance by him. At CFFC 92. I
think we're going to see that kid's going to be.
He's going to go somewhere.
He's going to be in a UFC problem real soon.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. I just he came on the show a while back. I want to get him back on again. He's like I said, great guy, great performance. I was there, and the performance was just like. Yeah, I don't know. He just knew what he was doing. He had a strategy. He stuck to that strategy and really just kind of dominated that whole performance. I mean, there was no question in my mind when that went to decision who was going to get it.
Yep, and he's so poised out there too, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he was confident. He did a great job, phenomenal job. So it was awesome to see. Law MMA now has 2 belts there. Currently, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Awesome to see that, man.
And he's a wonderful kid, and you can't help but root for him. So.
Oh yeah. No, I was. The whole reason I went was that night was because I was like, all right, well, you know what? He's a great guy. I want to go there and support him. So we went down there, and it was actually pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if have you been down to CFFC since they started bringing people back in?
No, I haven't been. So I've been to many CFFC, but they're doing and this is a genuine plug to you, CFFC. They're doing a nice job, aren't they, with their show?
Oh, they're doing a phenomenal job. I'll tell you, what they did was they have tables set up, and you buy a table, and you could hang out, and the thing is they took that approach where, restaurants could have people in, whereas you can't have people at events, but you can have people in a restaurant, right? So you got to get a table, and you got to order a meal. Yeah. And you're able to watch the fight, right? So it's kind of a really cool concept. It was really out of the box thinking and really cool thinking that they did that. And they do a really great job at it. I had a great time. And I've been to 2 of those now where they've done it that way.
Wonderful. And I was talking to Ray too. They're getting some really good kids to come a long way to fight in their fights.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was a couple people that traveled across the water, man, to get there. So
right. It's like it used to be very regional, but now you got kids coming in from all over to fight that card. Yeah.
Well, I think, you have a couple things going on. It's a great card. It's actually, I love that promotion, to be honest with you. I think it's a really well-run promotion. They do a great job. They're on Fight Pass, which definitely helps. Yes. And then you have, over in Europe, they don't have anything going on right now. I mean, everything's kind of dead out there, unfortunately. Yeah. So everybody's got to come here if they want to do anything. The other question is, can they get over here? So that's the whole thing. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things helping it, but I think CFFC is only going to get better, only going to grow as a promotion because it's such a great promotion. I enjoy
Happy
going
to
there.
hear it. Yep. Good.
Another one, PFL is another one I think is going to get bigger.
I think they do. Yeah, I agree with you. I've enjoyed their tournament format. And they've put together nice shows. I've been to a couple. They're doing good work too. I agree.
Yep. And Invicta FC they're always great, but Invicta FC, shout out to Shannon Knapp, who is got some cool things coming down the road too. So, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in the fight world. And hopefully once we clear this pandemic, we'll be able to really kind of go into a renaissance of a sorts. And of course the UFC is always the top dog. But
yeah, we're hoping for a remake of the Roaring 20s, right? The Roaring 20s were 100 years ago after the Spanish flu. Maybe we'll have a Roaring 20s here. We're in the 20s, 2020. Yeah.
There you go. So we're going to have another Roaring 20s. Well, exactly. If you look at the history of pandemics, if you go back, and I did some research here, they're all 100 years apart. It's like, what the hell happens at 100 years?
It's almost a century to the dime.
Yeah, every single one of them. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the biggest problems is it's exactly 100 years. So really nobody's around to tell us what they did wrong in the last one. So we keep screwing it all up again, right?
Exactly. That's a great point. And you're absolutely right. And I think one thing we've learned, though, as we close out today, in terms of health, and again, I say this as a concern for us as a culture, not as a judgment. We got really hurt because of the comorbidities, obviously, and we need to become a healthier nation. And I'm not saying that if someone works out and stays in great shape, it's guaranteed immunity. It is not, but it certainly helps the chances that the treatments would work more efficaciously. And, so everyone that I know that unfortunately we've lost, they had a pre-existing condition, and even the tough studies showed that, look, obesity remains the number one cause in the severity of symptoms. So, and my point to that is 100 years ago, even if we kept record, obesity would not have contributed because no one was. Yeah. So we know the negative effects of having that poor health, and we have to do something about it.
Yeah, and that's a great place to kind of close out. And like I said, and I hope we do have a renaissance going forward, and things change. And that's another thing, you look back at history, anytime societies have gone through very, very difficult times, usually following those difficult times is a period of renaissance. So that's another interesting piece that you can learn from history, which is why I could go on a whole history rant, but I'm not going to do that. Why we need to preserve history. I think you and I are on the same page there.
Oh, yeah. I can say unequivocally, unambiguously. Yeah.
So, hey, listen, I appreciate you coming on again. Very interesting stuff. I can't wait to get this podcast up. It's going to be, like I said, I think you always have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of information. I love talking to you. I can't wait to get back out there and train with you guys again.
Yeah,
sometime soon. And I'd like to come train with you. I see you doing amazing things. You're doing a lot of band work, which is I didn't really get to talk to you about today, but we'll get you back on and talk about that, weight cutting and all that stuff I didn't get to today. But
always happy to come back. Really,
I love having you, man. So listen, thank you again. Have a great. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything else you want to put out there?
No, just I would like to say thank you to you, and I enjoyed this. And but I would encourage everybody, check out the Society of Neurosports. I think you'll love it. It's a marriage of exercise science and neuroscience. And I'm not a big PR guy, but I'm on Instagram where I do some of my stuff. And It's my company name, Fight Shape, and married to my last name, Fight Shape Ricci. So you can give me a follow there.
Absolutely. And everybody check this guy out. Definitely follow. Definitely, follow him everywhere. All that stuff and all the social media that he's on, because he's posting some really cool things and some cool exercise stuff, and just a really wealth of information and knowledge. I really enjoy, following you myself. So anyway, thanks, Tony. I appreciate it, my friend. I will see you soon.
See you soon. Keep up the extreme lifestyle.
All right, brother.